Fans can't stop talking about the strange rumors that are going around the hip-hop scene right now. Timelines are getting hotter. Videos from late at night are circulating. Additionally, speculation is all over social media. A heated exchange between Jim and 50 Cent Jones might have grown up following a shocking incident that left everyone stunned. Numerous testimonials on the internet claim that when the lights go out and the cameras keep recording, an unexpected story suddenly emerges. Fans are shocked by how fast these accusations are gaining traction and how authentic everything looks in the movie. Not because they know the details of what transpired. The mood shifts, tension increases, and voices are raised. Suddenly, a heated exchange took place. Others insist that it was all prearranged mockery, mind games, and humiliation. The same question keeps coming up, but nobody is saying that it has been verified. Why are these tapes being made public now, and who wanted them to be? Making the rounds, passions erupted on the internet as responses arrived in a matter of minutes. As some supporters on both sides started choosing teams, comments exploded with disbelief. Some questioned whether this was all a part of a bigger plan. According to insiders, the problem may be more related to pride, reputation, and persistent stress as opposed to a simple power outage. The severity of the event was increased by the tone of the footage under evaluation. There was background laughing, sarcasm, and the sense that someone was deliberately making a fool of themselves. At the same time, viewers at home were curious, confused, and uncomfortable. Was this a case of pure disagreement, or was it a warning in advance? What the internet does best, it did. The family was left with conflicting views as the culture was divided in two. It amplified every pause, whisper, and shadow in the room. One thing is certain though, given the recent reports that there are other films, people are paying more attention than ever to what really happened behind those dimmed lights. This is by no means the end of the story. The initial conversation between 50 Cent and Jim Jones was quiet, but it quickly became louder as more reports began to surface online. Those close to the situation claim that rather than a single incident, there was a building of stress that had been boiling for weeks. Before the night the lights supposedly went out, there was already animosity between Jim Jones and 50 Cent. People who claim to have been close recall a room full of forced laughing long before anything weird happened. According to remarks that have been making the rounds on blogs and social media, sidelong looks, and a spooky atmosphere. Because of the way the story is told online, the moment the lights went out became symbolic rather than just mechanical. Admirers are amazed at how quickly the tone altered. Voices become more assertive if they are quiet. Someone reportedly tried to lighten the situation with a joke, but things did not work out as expected. Reports state that it actually made the area even more uncomfortable. The uneasy quiet, where no one knows who should speak next, was later described by viewers as something they experienced through their televisions. 50 Cent's personality enters the picture here. Commentators claim that fans are aware of the capacity to turn uncomfortable circumstances into public lessons. He reportedly didn't raise his voice. Instead, he tended to be ironic. It's the kind that pierces deeper and has a humorous sound. However, sources claim that Jim Jones is definitely angry, and not explosive, annoyed. According to some admirers who have read the situation, the emotion of being made fun of was more annoying than the lights going out. As the alleged video went viral, users began pointing out small details. Body language stops the focus on specific statements and reactions from others around you. Emotions were running high in the comment sections as fans tried to interpret every event. Jim Jones came across as rude. Some claimed that 50 Cent was joking and that the internet was exaggerating the matter. But the more people disputed the tale, the more attention it garnered. The claims that the tape had been leaked then came to light. According to a number of accounts, it's possible that someone in the room discreetly recorded what was happening on camera. This detail alone surprised fan communities. The prospect of a private moment being revealed added to the drama. The subject of trust was brought up right away. Supporters began to wonder who would benefit from the publication of such content. Was someone trying to impress someone? Clout, or someone with a personal motive is being chased? Virtual celebrities began answering quite immediately. Jim Jones was defended by others who said that if such a moment were made public, anyone would feel dehumanized. Others praised 50Cents.com demeanor and stated he handled the situation nicely. Supporters took sides, passions raced high, and each person was undoubtedly aware of what had truly transpired. The household was divided, although not literally, within the culture. Old allegiances and long-standing rivalries resurfaced. As debate continued, new claims emerged. Some sources claim that the later addition of satirical subtitles may have heightened the humiliation element, simply defeat it. Admirers have been shocked by how the humor turned into something darker. Looking back, what had appeared to be harmless laughter suddenly seemed intentional. When people realized that this might not have been an unplanned moment, but rather a power move, they started to question what they were seeing. Jim Jones's supporters pointed to his experience establishing creative spaces and providing funds for local projects. They said that when everything was reduced to a joke about lights going out, the bigger picture was missed. 50 Cent's supporters countered that public figures should expect scrutiny, especially when tension is already prevalent. Tensions were high as the two sides persisted in their online argument, with each new comment fanning the flames. As people speculated about loyalty and betrayal, fans weren't the only ones who responded. Both artists' friends and associates were included in the conversation. Where had the silent person been standing? Someone who looked uncomfortable laughed. The narrative being created on the internet included every little remark. What would have simply taken a few seconds was now prolonged into hours of analysis in real time. Many began to question whether this would conclude nicely or turn into something more serious as word spread. Enthusiasts are shocked by how similar this trend is. A private moment, a leaked video clip, public sentiment. The selection of sides is underway. Feelings were powerful again, as people wondered what the next response would be. Could you please elaborate? Would there be denial, or would silence itself make the biggest statement? After these anecdotes, the audience realized one thing. When the conversation finally settled down, though regardless of what had happened when those lights went out, consequences had already taken on a life of their own. The tale no longer belonged to the people in the room. Rather, it was under the control of people watching from the outside, curious to see what new direction the story might take. What had been portrayed as an unpleasant moment turned into a full-fledged narrative about rivalry and image. When further rumors and opinions surfaced on social media, according to online reports, the tension between 50 Cent and Jim Jones persisted even after the lights were turned back on. Instead, it lingered in the air, affecting every encounter that followed. Observers post-event accounts of the mood, which described it as calmer, heavier, and full with unstated significance, surprised fans. As time passed, Jim Jones appeared more reserved. According to those discussing the situation, he was hardly reclusive, but his body language and conversation were noticeably certain. Some saw this as a choice to put discipline ahead of response. Some saw it as a hint of annoyance, as fans debated whether remaining composed in such circumstances is a show of strength or merely damage management. Their emotions were running high. His response's ambiguity was included in the story. However, reports about 50 Cent emphasized how comfortable he seemed to be in the same location. His ease was seen to be intentional, a sign that he felt completely in control of how the incident would be remembered. According to commentators, fans are amazed at how quickly confidence may alter one's perspective. He was seen as managing the narrative without escalating the conflict or being more confrontational. Some onlookers believed that this was exactly what he intended to occur. The alleged leak dominated online conversation. How a recording could emerge so quickly and up close was a mystery to many. The question of who might have been holding the camera and why was the subject of much speculation. Supporters imagined the betrayal that would transpire if someone in Jim Jones's immediate vicinity decided to release video without authorization. Feelings were running high. Instead of being presumed, trust was now investigated. Even if this was not the first time intimate moments were revealed to the public, the context gave it a special flavor. Internet commenters claimed that the timing, the sarcasm, and the laughter gave the impression that it was intimate. Supporters are amazed at how quickly sympathy can shift when humiliation is involved. Something that could have been funny seemed insulting to one audience. Degrading. Responses poured in, drawing friends and coworkers on both sides into speculation. The silence of some was seen as evidence. Casual likes and reposts were interpreted as statements. As they investigated social media activity, like detectives, people's emotions were running high. Whether intentional or not, every action has for a reason. Jim Jones's enduring cultural impact was highlighted by his supporters. They talked about his efforts to foster creativity and collaboration, arguing that his efforts should be given more weight than a fleeting moment of mockery. Followers are amazed at how quickly seconds of viral material can overshadow years of laborious effort. The focus on shame appeared too unfair and disrespectful to them. On the other hand, 50 Cent supporters said that the game has always been influenced by popular opinion. They claimed that responding to ridicule with humor shows resilience. Passions were running high as the debates grew increasingly heated and each side accused the other of being off. The family was divided, along lines of allegiance and opinion as opposed to kinship. Calm comments. The two men's past was continuously shown on the channels. They repeated old jokes. They watched earlier interviews once more. Previously regarded as friendly moments were now viewed with distrust. Fans are amazed at how context changes memory. It was foreshadowing, even though it had sounded like harmless chatter. Jim Jones reportedly made an effort to shift the focus by emphasizing progress and forward momentum. Supporters praised this as maturity. Critics portrayed it as avoidance. Again, interpretation was more significant than facts. Emotions were running high as the crowd applied their own beliefs to the scenario. The mocking tone of the claimed clip remained a point of controversy. It was deliberate but subtle. Commentators claimed that it is neither loud enough to dispute nor soft enough to ignore. The audience was caught between laughing and feeling uneasy. It was hard to tell the difference between laughter and shame when it came to humor. Days passed, yet the story continued. with a little other viewpoints and new voices into the conversation. Because of repetition, several viewers took speculation to be true. In private, fans are amazed by how quickly stories harden without verification. Many onlookers began to speculate that 50 Cent and Jim Jones anticipated exactly how things would turn out. These cycles are not the first they have seen. Attention grows, opinions diverge, and then silence exacerbates the situation. As they considered whether this was a singular episode or a component of a larger pattern, people's emotions were running high. The lack of a resolution, however, maintained the audience's interest. No formal explanation, no exact statement, just constant interpretation. Fans kept watching because uncertainty inspires innovation. Every pause has a purpose. Each delay appeared to be intentional. The story had gone beyond the present. At this point, the conversation shifted to how quickly power can be altered by perception alone. A brief loss of control was enough to initiate an endless dispute, whether real or fake. Fans are shocked by the vulnerability of reputation in the digital age, and those who were paying close attention were aware of this. One thing, the impact was already apparent as the conversation continued without any answers. Emotions had been stirred, regardless of how terrible the issue was. As reported, viewers were riveted to the television, waiting for any new developments that would further the plot, and they had taken sides. As the story evolved through online discussion and analysis, focus began to shift to how this situation was affecting all parties more broadly. What had started out as a difficult moment was now affecting long-standing alliances, relationships, and reputations, according to reports that were being addressed on numerous platforms. How quickly a single event may spread and impact SDS fans who weren't even personally involved. Emotions erupted as the audience realized that this was about more than just 50 Cent and Jim Jones, but also about the circles that surrounded them. Private conversations became more guarded, according to an online discussion of the matter. Friends and associates were allegedly being circumspect with their remarks. This unease added another level of intricacy to the story, because they were aware that anything may be misinterpreted or leaked. Fans imagined the stress of balancing loyalty with the knowledge that trust was fragile. As the narrative developed, the family was divided both in public opinion and in private conversations where opposing viewpoints were gradually forming. Many conjectured that Jim Jones may have been more acutely affected by the weight of expectations. Supporters expected him to respond with lucidity or even humor. Critics anticipated animosity or being defensive. Emotions ran high as every small action was closely watched. A simple appearance, a succinct message, or even silence was scrutinized as if it were an intentional statement. The narrative surrounding 50 Cent, however, continued to present him as someone who is comfortable with chaos. Because of his previous management of crises, online commenters say that this moment felt more familiar than scary. Fans are amazed at how experience can influence perspective. One sees opportunity where another sees disgrace. This discrepancy led to an endless debate over goal and outcome. As the days passed, the discussion in the leaked film gained importance. Now it was more than just a video. It turned into a weapon, a rumor, and proof all at once. There was disagreement over whether it should even be in the public space. Emotions were running high as fans debated between entertainment and morality. Some felt that sharing it was improper. As other theories emerged, others argued that public figures live in a public space. The emotions of the fans grew stronger. Some said that the event had been exaggerated by editing and commentary. Others argue that, despite the lack of confirmation, the emotional reality appeared genuine. Fans are amazed at how easily belief may spread when it is repeated often. The family was divided again, reflecting the divergence of cultures. Commentary channels began to cover broader topics: power, connections, respect, and differences across generations. They argued that this example showed how authority and humor are perceived differently based on the person in the spotlight, as they connected this story to their own experiences of being misunderstood or made fun of. People's emotions were running high because they saw more than simply the time in question. The public and private narratives got intertwined. Jim Jones's supporters may have felt protective. According to some experts, they saw years of commitment, diligence, and service. To them, the mocking tone seemed contemptuous. Enthusiasts are amazed at how easily nuance disappears on the internet. Complexity is not trending like conflict. However, supporters of 50 Cent portrayed the situation as just another example of mental clarity. They argued that using wit instead of force or shouting may lead to supremacy. Feelings were running high as people debated if this frame of view just explained or approved of humiliation. The debate raised deeper questions about how respect is earned and lost. As conjecture continued, other voices urged prudence. Confirmations are not reports. Remarks are not proof. They reminded the audience. This memory briefly halted the conversation, but it was quickly reignited by curiosity. The difficulty of letting go of a topic once it has captivated their attention surprises fans. The mind can't focus on clarity for as long as it can on uncertainty. Rumor has it that advisors and friends may have secretly encouraged patience. A person could be coerced into a story they didn't want to tell. If you respond too quickly, people's emotions were running high as they wondered if the silence was forced or intentional. Every decision seemed dangerous. The audience began to perceive the problem as a mirror the longer it remained unresolved. Individuals imposed their own values upon the story. People who value humility took one side. Sharpness-loving people were on different sides. The household was divided again, showing how identity affects understanding. The idea of control became the subject of fresh discussions. When no one speaks, who controls the story? Who benefits from the holdup? Admirers are shocked to learn that sometimes quiet speaks louder than action. Every gap created by the absence of evidence was filled by imagination. As the issue continued to be the main emphasis, some began to question if resolution was actually necessary. The debate itself was driving engagement. Whether intentional or not, people's emotions ran high as they realized that the algorithm thrived on tension. The situation was now a part of a larger system that puts reaction ahead of consideration. By this point, the story had progressed much beyond the initial reporting. Instead of focusing on a particular event in a location, it was now about how memories are recalled, altered, and repeated. The audience remained enthralled with the conversation and the speed at which stories transform into symbols as fans proceeded without interruption. Not because they knew what had happened, but rather because they didn't. The fuel was uncertainty, but rather because they didn't. The fuel was uncertainty. The amusement gave way to speculation, and as each hour passed, everyone closely monitored the potential that anything new would surface, waiting to see how the next development may fundamentally alter everything once more, change everything completely again. As the days turned into weeks, and there was never any conclusive proof, the rumors about 50 Cent and Jim Jones continued to circulate. Instead, it evolved and grew heavier with every recitation. The episode became a case study of how interpretation, not facts, is what modern theater thrives on. As per the ongoing conversation, supporters are amazed at how absorbed people stayed. Not because they knew what had happened, but more because they felt something had happened. That feeling was enough to keep the story going on its own. As time passed, silence continued to influence the argument. Daily, without a definitive response from either party, the speculation intensified. Some onlookers believed that Jim Jones was choosing dignity by declining to use fame to boost rumors. Others said that silence created a space that allowed assumptions to grow unchecked. Fans' emotions were running high as they debated whether speaking up would have cleared the air or just fueled the fire. Supporters of Jim Jones started portraying the circumstance as a patience test, in particular, when reports are based more on remarks and fragments than on verified occurrences. They argued that not every instant calls for a response. Fans are amazed at how often moderation is viewed as a sign of weakness in internet culture. They believed that sticking to long-term goals and moving forward without making public declarations was the best course of action. However, 50 Cent's fans tended to see things differently. They claimed that his apparent indifference was a sign of confidence based on experience. They thought this was not his first encounter with scandal and most likely wouldn't be his last, as they contended that just as strategic as knowing what to say is knowing when to be quiet. They were feeling really emotional. The alleged video exposure continued to haunt every part of the story. Even in the absence of proof, its existence in the public imagination had weight. Even in the absence of concrete proof, fans are amazed at the power of suggestion alone. Many began to accept the idea that there was footage of people laughing, and that mockery may have been there as an emotional reality. Commentators began focusing more on trust and vulnerability. They discussed how creative settings are meant to be insecure, cooperative, and protected. A raw nerve was hit by the notion that someone in such a setting may divulge information for personal gain, as many related the situation to their own experiences of betrayal, in which confidence was quietly broken. Their emotions were running high. The narrative expanded beyond the two names at its center, rather than being made public. As the conversation continued, it evolved into one on the dynamics of power in public life. Who controls the narrative? Who benefits from being noticed? Admirers are often amazed by how little action is required to alter perspective. A pause, a laugh, a leaking angle. A story can be entirely rewritten by these few facts. Observers questioned whether the internet itself had exaggerated what had happened. As fans argued over responsibility, they highlighted how repetition turned speculation into certainty. There was a lot of tension. Was it appropriate to rely a decision on commentary? Or was, as soon as the issue got traction, condemnation was inevitable? The following division of the family indicated a wider difference in ideals. Some believed that transparency was due to the audience. Others believed that privacy should be a priority, especially for celebrities. Fans are amazed at how quickly those values collided, creating conflict within factions as well as between spectators who were torn between curiosity and empathy. Several audience members began to feel fatigued as the weeks passed. Anger was replaced by reflection. People started to question why this specific time was so significant. Their emotions were running high as they came to the realization that terror was the solution. Years of labor were marked by fear of mockery, anxiety about losing control, and dread about having a single moment. There may never be a resolution. Some voices said, not every story has a certain ending. Not every rumor is taken seriously. The unpleasant nature of that reality shocks fans. Patience, which is rarely rewarded online, is necessary when faced with uncertainty. Commentators also highlighted the role of algorithms. Calm drama moves more slowly than explanation. More people disseminate rumors than evidence. When people realized that the story's durability was mostly owing to attention, their emotions were running high. As the conversation grew older, it became more reflective. Viewers examined their own reactions, the reasons for their amusement, their uneasiness, and their choice of side. The ease with which fans were able to add to the story through clicks, comments, and debate has left them amazed. Gradually, the intensity even off due to a shift in emphasis rather than an increase in responses. But the impression remained. People remembered the rapidity at which perception evolved, the division brought about by humor, and the strength of silence. Feelings soared one final time as the story faded into memory rather than news. Ultimately, the situation did not yield a clear-cut reality. Instead, it revealed something more unsettling. How simple it is to create stories without evidence. How power can be transferred by suggestion alone. Fans are surprised not because they are aware of what transpired, but rather because they saw how belief was formed in real time. Everyone could see only one thing. When the noise finally died down, I listened to the entire story. The moment had already served its purpose.